show. Well, kind of this time. As always, I'm your host, Daniel, with my father and co host, Jerry. Say hi, Dad.
Hello.
This time we're doing The Undoing, as well as we're going to talk a bit about probably the first episode of The Flight Attendant. Kinda. Just because we finished The Undoing yesterday, and we saw the first episode of The Flight Attendant, and since they're both kind of murder mystery things going on, we thought we can kind of compare and contrast. And to be honest, we're probably not going to watch the rest of Flight Attendant. um, One of the things with like that you have to do for something like the for one of these shows is you have to pull people in with the first episode, obviously, especially if it's a series or something, a mini series, limited series. Like you can have a bad first episode, but that's usually not good. But for a limited series, you really can't. And the Undoing, it has a really kind of unique first episode in the fact that it's very strange, especially when compared to the rest of the series. One of the reasons I think it is because you don't really know what's going on. You have all the weird kind of power plays between the one woman who gets killed in it, with her and Nicole Kidman, and you just kind of see into the life of these people, and then the woman, you have some strange things, then she dies, and it sets up the whole thing, which actually really works to pull you into the show.
Yeah.
Um, and the rest is then it's more standard murder mystery, but it has such a good setup for it. Um, and you see them, and obviously it gets everything nice and set up. You see all the characters, you see how they interact prior to that. You see the dad doesn't really Nicole Kidman's father, Donald Sutherland, doesn't really like her husband. You see her and her husband have a pretty good relationship. You see their relationship with their kids pretty good. You see she's a very involved mom. They're very well to do. Well, they're very rich, and all that. And okay, and it does that, but it keeps you like, what the heck's going on? Because of how especially strange. I think her name's Maria, the woman that gets killed in this is
Yeah.
through the first episode. I mean,
Elena is a
Elena, yeah, Elena. Um, and it really works to get you drawn into this mystery, and it pays off really really well, and because you get what's going on, you get why she's doing these things and stuff, but um, and throughout the whole thing, up until the ending, you are guessing on who killed her
yeah.
and why, because they set up quite a bit of motive for a number of people. Um, they and they do it really well. And I think like the first episode really kind of, because it set up the characters so well, um, and was just and had already that level of threat to it. Even though obviously the person who did most of the weird stuff dies, it really worked, and it kept working until the very end. I thought,
Yeah.
and I do think this one kind of falls apart at the very end.
Uh, it was very well set up throughout the whole movie,
Hmm.
and it was very well filmed. There's no
Yes,
question about that.
yeah, I thought the filming, the pacing was good, and everything. Again, until the last episode, I liked a lot of the courtroom scenes. It's obviously David E. Kelly who does courtroom
Yeah.
scenes very well. I was a huge fan of Boston Legal. I liked Harry's Law, even though that only lasted a season. And what was the one? Oh, and I really liked the first season of Goliath,
Yeah.
um, in particular. And all those had heavy courtroom scenes in, and they're very well. They're very modern in lawyering. They got into some points really with modern lawyering, in particular, and
And
how.
yeah, the I thought that the
Mhm,
courtroom scenes were highly accurate,
mhm.
especially dealing with the defense attorney, how she went through everything, except for the ending.
Yeah, and I know you obviously you're an attorney and stuff, so you know more about law than me. But I'll talk about that in a bit. We'll talk about that in a bit, as well as we'll compare it somewhat to the flight attendant's opening thing. But like I said, like one of the things that really got you is on like the jury selection, how there's very clearly something that something somewhere went terribly wrong in how they were selecting the jury for
Uh,
this, with
yeah,
like
well,
the surveillance and.
he took a real shot
Mhm.
at our society as to surveillance, in that the
Mm-hmm.
defense attorney had things on the individuals coming into the jury, like the one guy had an affair.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, things that you would want to know, but would never be in the jury selection pool, even if you ran a private investigator on them. I
Yeah.
mean, it was real detailed things, and Kelly pulled that off reasonably well, where the defense attorney actually says, "Well, I get these; they're out there. They probably shouldn't be,"
Yeah.
or something along those lines. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
but I have to use them because they're there.
yeah. I mean that was in my opinion one of the best scenes of the whole thing because while it didn't technically have to, it had to do more with like it had a lot to do with like modern trials and stuff, and it was just such a like kind of just disgusting scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not saying the defense attorney was disgusting, but she absolutely, you fully understand that like in order to best defend her client, she had to do these things, and even she had a feeling that this was very immoral.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it was a clear, like it was one of the most times I've seen like a blatant statement recently against something like this
Mm-hmm.
in a TV show or anything. Um, and yeah, it talked like how they were looking through their Facebook feeds and stuff, and they're like, oh, this guy had an affair, this woman had was cheated on, blah blah blah. Uh, these two, this woman here doesn't know her husband's having an affair on her or something like that, and stuff like that. They
And
also like, and I actually wish they went into more of this. I thought they, because they did it really well, is how the media would play a big role in these trials.
yeah,
Because this was like, I mean, it was one of those big, very like sexy trials that you have like, they go to this prestigious school. You find out Hugh Grant was having an affair with the woman whose kid had cancer.
mm-hmm.
That's how they met. They kind of like, and one of the things I think it did well, and going back to the first episode with just her bizarre behavior,
Yes,
is like, and Hugh Grant talked about how she became obsessed with him and was was crazy,
yeah,
and like because of like just like first off she does a few like really weird power plays with Nicole Kidman,
mm-hmm. Yes,
uh, in the first episode in particular,
especially in
like
the first
yeah,
episode. Yeah,
and like some of them are just can be like, and they're like they're weird, but they're not like she does the breastfeeding scene, which is like perfectly fine, but it's somewhat bizarre in how she does it. And then she obviously goes up to her naked in a locker room, uh, and just some other things. And when she talks to her, she's like very like flirty and intimate with her, and like so you kind of buy like she definitely had something for Hugh Grant.
yeah,
But and they in Do Their Defense, they never show like if he's telling the truth or not on a lot of the stuff until the end. And I think that worked for it because then you had the husband who that you met her that obviously has some anger issues. Um,
well, he had a good right to be angry too.
yeah, he
Oh
had a
yeah,
good right to be angry and stuff, but uh, like I like I said, but they played that up well, and whether he could do it or not, they played up like um, Nicole Kidman, whether she could do it, and she's just faking a lot of this stuff.
yeah.
And like I said, and it does keep you guessing with a few like until the very end, but then that final episode just kind of sinks the ship.
Yeah, uh, I thought they did the defense attorney really well.
Yeah.
First of all, she's a very masculine type of person, somebody who you'd think of as a defense attorney.
Mm-hmm.
She looks a little odd. Almost all defense attorneys, actually in person, look a little odd.
Yeah.
But she went through her stuff with,
Mm-hmm.
the scene where she calls the little boy up, and
Yeah.
she's able to handle that in real perfect, almost perfect,
Yeah.
as she didn't attack the little boy or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but she got out everything she wanted.
I mean, one of the key things I thought with her, like calling the little boy up, is first off, she wanted to point out very clearly to the jury that he's there as a prop.
Mm-hmm.
That like, and I think that goes to the like the whole thing of the trial and the scene they were trying to make, and they were playing it on the media and stuff. That everything was a prop in the trial, and that's
Right.
one of the things they hit home really well with like how Hugh Grant and Nicole Kidman's relationship, having their son there, etc. Is it that everything was just set up as a prop, just all to show to get the jury to move one way or another. It all wasn't real. It was fake
Yeah.
to a certain degree.
Yeah. Well, even she used like uh, she went out with Grant and had him on TV,
Hmm.
and I got the impression that why she was doing this was to see how he would react
Hmm.
as to if she had to put him on the stand.
Yeah.
And Hugh Grant, throughout this whole thing, is the snake oil salesman.
Hmm.
You know, he's got this good smile, he's charming,
Hmm.
he's everything that you would like in a defendant.
Hmm. Yeah.
And and I thought that I thought that Kelly wrote an excellent story about
Hmm.
the courtroom, how it works when it's worked by people who are excellent,
Hmm.
who know what they're doing.
Hmm.
And I thought she got some good ideas as to that. As you said, I think it sort of fell apart at the end because I don't think any defense attorney would ever have put the wife on the stand.
Yeah, like, because no matter what, you have the thing of she's a woman scorer and whatnot, even if she says she loves him and stuff and all that, and how she, like, tried to convince her. But also, like, and this might be just me,
Yeah.
I feel like that was almost certain grounds for a mistrial because it seems like she totally tried to manipulate the attorney so she could get up and screw her husband.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, and they were like, well, you can't because obviously, like, if the prosecutor called her, she has
Yeah.
obviously, you can't
Yeah.
compel a wife to testify against her husband and vice versa, or
Yeah.
husband against their husband, whatever. But it felt like she slowly got up. I mean, she did slowly get up to screw him over. She had the one character set up in it and everything.
Well,
But
I do think that the objection that she made at the
mhm,
court hearing
mhm,
was a legal objection.
yeah,
And I think that the, I think that probably in a trial like that, the judge would allow it in.
hmm,
Whether the appeals court would allow it or not, I don't know.
yeah,
But certainly, I think because in a trial, in a criminal case,
yeah,
the judge allows in about everything.
yeah. And well, I was gonna say like,
Because on a trial where the guy is going to be in prison for the rest of his life,
mhm,
you know, judge doesn't want to be prejudiced, so he allows in about everything.
yeah. Also,
That was
oh,
that
go
was
ahead.
definitely a well, it was definitely a thing, and she says it was against interest,
Hmm.
and it was against the interest of the defendant, but it wasn't when you have a objection to against interest.
Hmm.
It has to be of the person who's on the stand
Hmm.
that they're making a statement that is against their interest.
Yeah.
Whether that was true in this case or not
Hmm.
is somewhat questionable to me. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, and also just from like my thing, the attorney knew right what to ask, like about the phone call with the mother and the
yeah, yeah,
and that to me like was very much like,
yeah,
well, we know in like the thing she has her friend tell her or something, and that seemed like to me it was all like it was very obvious the wife set them up,
yeah.
and I feel like any judge would call in real life that would be such grounds for a mistrial.
Well, you don't know. I mean, I think that they had a as I said, I think she made the right objection.
Hmm.
Uh, the I think all that the judge would allow it in
Hmm.
and had them argued out on the court of appeal.
Yeah.
But I mean, the the reason I don't think you got the defense attorney, and I think that everything has went her way throughout the trial,
Hmm.
and you're not going to put on, as I said, take the chance with Nicole Kidman. I don't think that putting her on the stand actually would have helped the case anyhow.
Hmm.
I mean, every wife's going to get up there and say, "Gee, well, I don't think my husband Yeah, my husband's not quite a great guy, but he isn't going to murder somebody. In
Yeah.
fact, I don't think I want to have that up on the stand. I don't want to remind the jury that my husband isn't a guy right at the end, a good guy right
Hmm.
at the end.
Yeah.
So
But
I wouldn't see her putting it on, and as I said, everything's went well in the trial. Now you might put her on if you had some real weakness,
hmm
uh, but I don't know. Um, I thought Kelly, throughout the movie,
hmm
the one thing he did is use the flashbacks really well,
yeah.
and uh, and use the flashbacks to show you the personality of the people.
hmm
Uh, I think he made Nicole Kidman a really scary individual.
Yeah. Well, she was. I mean, she's always somewhat scary in a lot of things.
Yeah,
She's very good at playing that role and stuff. She's a great actress. All the acting in the movie is superb, even from the little kid.
yeah,
That's their son, who.
both little kids.
Yeah, both little kids. Also the woman's one kid, but and yeah, there's like she's obviously like I also like, and I don't know this like all the laws to this, but I also felt like as she was a psychologist or psychiatrist,
Yeah.
she couldn't legally say some of the stuff she was saying on the stand.
Well, I don't know about that. I think that that would have been a liability, I would see,
Yeah.
because since she is a psychologist, the prosecutor could have asked her about psychology.
hmm
And I think that in the trial, they did get out some of that information as to, uh, and see, I just didn't see that was,
hmm
that sort of shook me because that everything up to that point, I think it ran perfectly, but I don't think any defense attorney would ever put her on the
hmm
stand, even if she was a psychologist. But she had all kinds of these problems.
Yeah.
You know, you got a woman who's scorned.
hmm
She's a psychologist and everything.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, it would have been like it would have made more sense if they would have called like Hugh Grant's mother or something,
yeah,
because like she talked about how he, because it had a lot to do with like his mother thought he was a sociopath or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Like that would have made more sense to me. Um, and like I said, even like with that,
yeah,
had I think they could have still pulled it off had the big reveal not just been so blah.
yeah,
Like because and I guess like spoilers now because big reveal is it was Hugh Grant all along.
yeah.
And you had like some really good like you had like him as a suspect. You even had the like kid somewhat as a suspect. You certainly had
Both kids, so-
huh both
both
kids.
kids. Yeah,
Yeah, both kids. You had the husband and you had her the woman who's murdered the husband. I keep forgetting her name. And you had Donald Sutherland,
yeah.
who I loved his character in the movie.
Oh, Donald Sutherland did an excellent job. He
Like
played the mean grandfather
yeah, but
who wasn't really mean because he did everything to help everybody.
mhm,
But the and yeah, I thought Donald Sutherland, and you're right, Donald Sutherland was a scary character,
mhm,
and uh, and in fact, uh, it was all a messy piece of. It was like a real trial where there's all kinds of evidence,
mhm,
and it's all messy. There's some good, some bad, some indifferent.
yeah,
If you know what I mean.
yeah,
And it went that way. Uh, the thing is, the one thing I didn't like the fact, I guess, that Hugh Grant was guilty of the thing because everybody thought he was guilty.
mhm,
In every character in the story thought he was guilty,
yeah,
uh, and then all of a sudden he's guilty.
yeah,
I thought it could have been a better story if everybody thought he was guilty, and
mhm,
at the end it turned out he wasn't.
yeah. Well, I mean,
And
like they also like his whole reason for finally killing him is she somewhat threatens his family,
yeah,
but he just seems like he just kind of snaps and just
it
all of a
went too
sudden.
fast.
Yeah, it was way too fast. There wasn't enough build up. Like the whole scene with him going out with his son while this is all happening,
Yeah,
just didn't work for me. I don't know. Just a lot of things about the ending just did not work, which is a shame because everything else before that really, really worked.
I think it did a. I think that it could have worked, and it could have been Hugh Grant, and it could have worked really well if he would have went out with his son and told his son that he did it,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then went to trial, went back to the courtroom, and faces his consequences. I think if I wanted Hugh Grant to do it, that's the way I would have ended the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a whole bunch of ways like to
yeah,
end it. Like, I mean, it would have made like more sense that if it was like Nicole Kidman, and this whole time she planned to screw him over on
yeah.
it, or like the father, or
Well,
like,
it could have been, any of them.
yeah,
And I mean, hell, it could have had a Perry Mason ending where somebody in the end of the trial got up and just before the jury came in and said, "I did it."
yeah. I don't
Uh,
know.
yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
as you said, I didn't think they did the ending well. Uh, as I said, the thing that everybody thought he was guilty, even his own defense attorney,
Yeah.
and the and that was the thing that uh, you know, and then he turned out to be guilty.
Hmm.
Of course, that is probably true about how the world works,
Yeah.
but it usually isn't the way a story works.
Hmm.
I mean, there's usually that last twist.
Yeah. It didn't seem like a twist wouldn't happen. It just seemed like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there weren't. It wasn't really a twisted story. It was a story told forthright, and there were a lot of people who could have been guilty of the murder.
yeah,
And as you said, almost everybody, almost all the main characters could have been guilty.
yeah. But I mean, it's not always the who; it's also the why. And I just found the why so weak
Yeah,
in
yeah.
it.
That yeah, it's sort of. And the one thing is, I thought at the end too, they built him up as this person who didn't care.
Hmm.
Why would he kill him?
Yeah. I don't know. Like,
He
uh,
didn't
I-
kill. He didn't kill his sister. He made a mistake.
yeah.
Uh, and
And he
you're
seemed like he
right.
cared about his son too.
Yeah.
And I
And
mean, this.
he cared about his son.
Hmm.
He seemed to love the woman that he was having an affair with.
Yeah.
And in fact, I thought the flashbacks were there to show that somehow.
Hmm.
And so it came down, and the ending didn't quite fit.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the first five and a half things were excellent.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the ending, like,
Yeah,
especially when you compare it to something like the Night of,
yeah. Oh, yeah,
which isn't a really fair comparison because the Night of is like probably the greatest, in my opinion, like the greatest uh, mystery courtroom drama thing,
yeah,
especially definitely for a miniseries.
yeah,
And it's just because that ending just kind of drags it down so much
hmm, yeah,
uh, that it's not really worth watching because of that. Um, but we also saw the flight attendant,
yeah.
uh, and I don't know if the show's that badly written, but it's certainly, and the acting's pretty good, but everything else in it's pretty bad. I don't like understand. Like first,
Oh, I was. You
yeah,
said the night of. I was thinking. I went back and this director was the director of the night of, but she's the director of the night manager, which
yeah,
was a
Nightman,
good.
which also was a better miniseries.
Yeah, was a good miniseries.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it had that one had a better ending.
yeah.
But yeah, but like the flight attendant, we're watching, and we're probably not going to watch any more of it. Uh,
But it has a cool idea to it.
yeah.
That here's this woman
Hmm.
who I didn't know how they were going to get it. She's got a husband and everything, but she fools around with everybody.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't have a
And
husband. That's her brother.
or was it her brother?
Yeah, I
Okay,
thought it was her husband too at first.
okay. So it was
Uh,
her brother. She fooled around with everybody. Uh,
mhm.
she's obviously a terrible alcoholic
Yeah. A
who
high
blacks
functioning
out.
alcoholic, though.
Yeah, oh, high functioning, but she blacks out.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she ends up in bed with a corpse.
Yeah.
A common movie starting that you can name a half dozen. I always think of the one with Jane Fonda. Uh, was one of the movies, but that did that. But you have she ends up in a corpse. Actually, a guy who got his throat slit into
Mm-hmm.
thing, and but and then she's starting to go crazy,
Yeah.
and she's actually talking to the corpse. And
Yeah.
I thought that's a really cool idea.
As she kind
But
of tries, as she tries, yeah. But like, one of the problems is I didn't realize this was supposed to be a comedy for a while,
yeah,
or have any real comedic elements
hmm
uh, in it. And I probably should have when they were just playing the song on her phone after she wakes up with the corpse.
yeah,
But it was just so unfunny.
yeah,
Um, and no, I really liked the scenes of her kind of talking to the corpse of the guy and trying to piece it together through that
yeah.
and kind of hallucinating. I thought that was
No,
actually really clever.
I thought that. I mean, the idea is great.
Yeah.
As I said, it's a common idea that you wake up in bed with a corpse.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never seen anyone where they actually talk with the corpse, and the corpse. I mean, the idea is great.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I don't think the acting's too bad in it,
No, I think
but
Kaylee
stories
Coco, the Penny from Big Bang Theory, does pretty well.
Yeah.
but it certainly doesn't have the opening of the night of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the night of's another one where he wakes up in bed with the corpse.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know if he's in bed with it, but he finds it shortly
yeah,
after, and he did go to bed with the girl. But I mean, like, and I commented on this while we were watching. I'm like, this music's really bad. Like the music and like the editing, how they kept doing split screens was just really distracting.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't think that they didn't in the beginning of the movie
mm-hmm,
where they run it through a bunch of short clips.
mm-hmm,
Didn't really. I mean, yeah, she's having this high life, but
mm-hmm.
you don't really. They didn't give you enough of it to actually know. I mean,
Yeah, you don't really know enough about her or the other
yeah,
characters.
yeah,
Um, I mean, it wasn't really. They didn't have like uh that like I said uh like yeah, she's a party girl, she's an alcoholic, but you don't get much beyond that. She has the they try to kind of do it with her talking to her brother or whatever, but it
yeah,
just didn't. I don't think it worked.
yeah,
It like honestly, it kind of feels like it's a like second draft of something that should be at least three drafts of a script.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I
As
don't
you,
know like who's doing the music and who's doing the directing and editing, but it's bad. Uh, the music in particular was really distracting me.
yeah, yeah. It was. It's sort of the modern beat music.
Yeah, it's really weird. Uh, and like she's going from like she's going and like they have her in Taiwan and they have her in Korea and then like they didn't really do anything with her being in Korea. In Taiwan's where it happens. Obviously, the guy gets killed, but uh, they had a lot of like they have some stuff going on like you don't know who the guy is or what he's doing and stuff. But like the whole thing of her like talking to the corpse and like her imagination and somewhat hallucinating
Yeah,
is really clever and interesting. And it's
yeah.
a great way to talk it through and have the person think of it.
hmm
Like and then like him getting out of bed was great and stuff like that. Because obviously he's dead in the bed and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, but like the problem is, first off, the music's so bad in it, and you just don't really have any characters yet.
The Yeah, the and as you said, I don't. I mean, they're in Bangkok. You
Hmm.
didn't get any idea that they were in Bangkok.
Well, Bangkok you somewhat did, but not Korea. And
No.
in fairness, she mostly spends the time in the hotel room, kind of,
Yeah.
and that's fine on it somewhat. But I, I don't know. I felt like maybe they could have done a little more with that, or like as well as kind of talk about like because then she's like, oh, I was on autopilot, blah blah blah, because she tried to skip out on the investigators and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, she came up with a good story there.
yeah, no, that was actually like fairly clever. She's like, oh, I'm dead, because you can see that happening,
Yeah.
like just her like totally blanking out and leaving after, I mean, doing how many? What is it? The flight from? I'm sure there were at least 3 12-hour flights or close to them in 2 or 3 days. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the guys who did the music has won a couple Oscars. He did the music for Pirates of the Caribbean and
Really,
King Kong,
it's
The
weird.
Last Samurai. Uh,
That's like what was that one? That I got. I think it's like, it's the guy that does a lot of the David Fincher music and stuff.
yeah.
And he did like Social Network and stuff. He did Bird Box, which has terrible music.
Hmm.
The one really terrible Sandra Bullock one where she can't see the monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. Like I said, I don't understand the choice in music in it, and I don't understand a lot of the choices in directing, and they just seem distracting and weird. Like
Yeah.
there's way too many split screens.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and like I said, the other choice, like I said, like having her talk to the corpse is a great way to get out like exposition and have her remember stuff and
Hmm.
try to go over it.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that was really clever.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know we're repeating ourselves on this, but that was like something that I was like, oh, this is interesting. I want more of
yeah.
this.
Yeah. And well, I thought that it did get interesting right at the end,
Yeah,
especially when the corpse got out of bed, and uh, they really made that connection that she was going to talk to the corpse, and he's going to be part of the main part of the movie.
yeah, that was cool, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said, my problem is it doesn't start off like it actually is a kind of a black comedy of this.
Hmm.
Like you probably really wasn't able to tell that until the corpse started talking,
Yeah.
which I don't, which I think is kind of, which I think is again a detriment to it and some of the humor it has.
Yeah.
Uh, but like I said, I don't know. I don't think we're probably going to try to watch any more of it.
Well, we'll see
Yeah,
what happens, going to how it goes,
yeah,
and
or how bored we get, or what.
yeah, we got uh, we got some others we'd like to watch too.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
But I think that's all we really have to say about any of these,
Yes.
unless you have anything more.
No, I do not.
Okay. Okay. As always, if you're on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. And if you're on Twitch, please remember to follow and subscribe. Okay. Thank you all, and have a nice night.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.